Cold open. Dale Kowalski was elbow deep in a clogged garbage disposal when the light in his kitchen flickered violet and a hole in reality opened above his sink. He didn't scream. He didn't drop his wrench. He just sighed the way a man sighs when the Wi-Fi goes out during the game. A shape unfolded from the light, tall, insectile, wearing what looked like ceremonial armor made of static electricity. Human Dale Kowalski. You are hereby offered provisional employment on a hazard tier expedition. Compensation, substantial. Survival probability undisclosed. Dale looked at the disposal. Looked at the alien. Looked at his unpaid electric bill on the counter. Does it come with dental? Affirmative. I'm in. And that was the entire vetting process. The recruiter, a Zorathi broker named Vex Ammon, met him in a briefing chamber that smelled like ozone and regret. Mr. Kowalski, I must formally advise against this contract. The destination world has claimed the lives of 11 prior extraction teams. Full teams, trained teams. Dale sipped a coffee he'd smuggled through the portal. 11, huh? Rookie numbers. This is not humor-appropriate context. I fix garbage disposals for a living, pal. I've seen things. Vex Ammon's mandibles clicked in what might have been despair. The planet's designation translates approximately to the devouring green. Survivors are rare. Sounds like my mother-in-law's backyard. Vex Ammon stared at him for a long moment, processing. Very well, sign here. And Mr. Kowalski. Yeah? Don't blame me if you come back in a box. Dale signed the form without reading it, the way he signed everything. The squad assembled in the launch bay, and Dale got his first look at the professionals he'd be dying alongside. First, Thessaly Voss, a Krintali combat medic with 4 arms and skin like brushed obsidian. She'd single-handedly stabilized 900 casualties during the Hex Nebula Plague outbreak, working 11 straight days without rest, 3 of her own limbs shattered in the process. She moved like she'd never once considered fear a useful emotion. Second, Barrow 90, a silicate exoskeleton demolition specialist, roughly the size of a refrigerator, with mandibles that could shear through reinforced hull plating. Barrow 9 had personally disarmed the Vantar reactor meltdown, solo, underwater, while the reactor was actively counting down. Command had given them a medal. Barrow 9 had melted it down and made a knife. Third, Elira Sunweaver, a bioluminescent telepath whose skin shifted color with her mood. Currently a deep wary blue, she had mapped the nightmare, rift in a region of space so psychically hostile that most scouts returned insane or not at all, entirely alone, using nothing but her mind and sheer stubbornness. Then there was Dale. No medals, no missions, no known survival record of any kind, hostile or otherwise. And this, said Vex Ammon, gesturing at Dale like a man presenting a sad vegetable, is your 4th team member, Field Logistics Specialist Dale Kowalski. Thessaly looked him up and down. What is his specialty? Plumbing, said Dale. And I once ate a gas station burrito that was technically a war crime. Barrow 9's mandibles clicked slowly. I do not understand this credential. You will, said Dale and cracked his knuckles. Nobody found this reassuring. Elira's skin flickered a distrustful shade of yellow. This unremarkable, soft-looking creature was going to be standing next to her when the ground tried to kill them, and she did not like her odds. Round 1. Thessaly briefed the group on Karsus 9's atmosphere. The air contains suspended acidic compounds. Exposure without a sealed suit causes chemical burns within 90 seconds. Dale nodded. So humid. Ohio in July. Thessaly blinked. This is comparable to your weather? Worse, actually. At least this planet won't make my hair frizz. Round 2. Barrow 9 pulled up a scan of the terrain. The gravity here fluctuates unpredictably, occasionally spiking to 4 times standard. Teams have been crushed against the ground without warning. Leg day, Dale said. Explain. Squats, my gym had a machine that did that on purpose. Guy named Chad made me do 5 sets. Barrow 9's exoskeleton clicked in what Dale had started to recognize as alarm. You survived this voluntarily? Barely, Chad's a monster. Round 3. Elira's skin darkened. The vegetation releases neurotoxic spore clouds when disturbed. Prolonged exposure causes hallucinations, then death. Cutting the lawn, Dale said. My allergies are murder in spring. One time I sneezed so hard I saw my grandpa and he's been dead 6 years. That is, Elira searched for words. That is not comforting. Wasn't meant to be. Grandpa was kind of a jerk. Round 4. Thessaly's readout chirped. Apex predators on this world, designated Grovemaws, average 4 tons and hunt in coordinated packs of 6 or more. Raccoons, said Dale immediately. That is not an equivalent threat class. You've never met the raccoons behind my apartment. They took my trash cans hostage for a week, organized, had a plan. Barrow 9 turned slowly toward Vex Ammon's transmission screen. Was this individual properly screened? Round 5. Elira, quieter now. There are electromagnetic storms that can stop a heart mid-beat. Full suit shielding is mandatory. Dale thought about it. Football game. Lightning delay. Watched a guy get hit by static off the bleachers just walking to his truck. Didn't even spill his beer. Silence. He kept the beer? Barrow 9 asked very quietly, like he needed this to not be true. Man's got priorities. Round 6. Thessaly, almost pleading now. Karsus 9 has claimed entire military divisions. Kowalski, this is not a joke. Dale shrugged. Relax, worst thing on earth is Monday morning traffic with a hangover. This is basically a theme park by comparison. Nobody on the squad found this comforting. Everybody on the squad quietly started rethinking their assumptions. HFY arrival and world reveal. The shuttle doors opened, onto a green so dense and violent it looked less like a jungle and more like a living wound. The sky churned an ugly bruise purple. Rain fell in fat, hissing drops that steamed on contact with metal. Thessaly's suit display flickered red almost immediately, seal straining against the corrosive air. Barrow 9's heavy exosuit groaned, servos whining under gravity that pulsed like a slow, crushing heartbeat. Elira staggered, one hand pressed to her skull, the psychic static of 1,000 hungry organisms screaming into her mind at once. Dale stepped off the ramp in a t-shirt and cargo shorts, squinting at the rain. Huh, he said. Smells like a swamp cooler that hasn't been cleaned. Kowalski. Thessaly's voice was tight with effort. Your suit readings are... You are not wearing appropriate protection. Didn't fit right, chafed. The atmosphere will dissolve your skin. Dale held out his arm, let a fat drop land on it, and watched it bead up and roll off like water off a duck. Guess I got lucky. Nobody said anything. Barrow 9's internal gyros audibly recalibrated twice. Our 6 episodic danger montage. Day 1, the acid rain. By nightfall, the storm had intensified into a full corrosive downpour. The squad huddled under a reinforced canopy, suits hissing as acid ate at the seals. Thessaly rationed patch kits with the grim focus of someone counting bullets. Dale wandered outside, found a rusted alien wreck, flipped it over, and used the hull as a lean-to. Overhang, he said, ducking underneath bone dry. Works the same as a carport. Barrow 9 stared through the rain at him. Carport. Keeps the rain off the truck. Keeps the rain off me. Same principle. Day 3, the spore bloom. They pushed deeper into the jungle swamp and triggered a spore bloom and a chest-high plume of hallucinogenic dust that sent Thessaly to her knees, retching, hands shaking as she fumbled for antidote injectors. Dale sneezed once, blew his nose on his sleeve, and kept walking. Bless me, he muttered. Elira, half delirious, grabbed his arm. How are you unaffected? Ragweed season back home makes this look cute. Barrow 9, personal log, day 3. Subject Kowalski shows no toxin response. No burn response. No gravitational distress. I am beginning to suspect either an undisclosed genetic enhancement or that Earth itself is simply worse than this planet. I have requested clarification from Command. Command has not replied. I do not believe Command knows either. Day 5, the Grovemaw pack. 6 4-ton apex predators surrounded the group in a dry creek bed. Low growls vibrating through the ground. Thessaly ready to plasma lance. Barrow 9 primed a demolition charge. Elira tried desperately to psychically. Project Comet 6 brains built, entirely around the concept of eating things. Dale stepped forward, crouched down, and held out a ration bar. The lead Grovemaw sniffed it, whined, sat down. They're just hungry, Dale said. Like the raccoons. You don't fight the raccoons. You negotiate with the raccoons. The other 5 Grovemaws sat down too, watching Dale with something disturbingly close to hope. Thessaly lowered her lance very, very slowly. Day 7, the EM storm. The sky above them turned white with electric fury, lightning crawling sideways between clouds. Full suit shielding barely held. Barrow 9's exosuit sparked and seized. forcing an emergency shutdown, and Elira collapsed. Her nervous system briefly scrambled by ambient current. Dale got a static shock off a metal fence post. Said, "Ow," shook his hand out and kept walking. "You are supposed to be dead," Barrow 9 said, exosuit rebooting with a pained whine. "I touched a doorknob wrong once in January. This is basically the same, just louder." Day 10, the gravity well. The ground began to pulse, not the ordinary fluctuation Barrow 9 had warned about, but something deeper, a rhythmic pull and release. Like the whole jungle was breathing. Trees bent sideways. Boulders lifted an inch off the ground and hovered, trembling, before slamming back down hard enough to crater. The squad flattened themselves, suits screaming warnings, joints straining under crushing surges of weight. Dale braced with one hand on a rock, wrote out each pulse like a man standing on a bus that braked too hard, and frowned at the horizon. "That's not gravity," he said slowly. "Gravity doesn't have a rhythm." For the first time, Thessaly didn't correct him. She just looked very quietly afraid. A 7 status flip. By the second week, nobody asked Dale to justify himself anymore. When he said duck, they ducked. When he said, "That's fine, leave it," they left it. Thessaly stopped double-checking his readings. Barrow 9 stopped narrating disbelief into the log. "I do not think he is weak," Elira said quietly one night, watching Dale sleep soundly 10 feet from a Grovemaw curled at his side like a dog. "I think he is simply built for a worse world than we understood." Thessaly said nothing. She just adjusted her watch rotation so Dale slept in the middle. Not because he needed protecting anymore, but because, increasingly, she suspected the opposite was true. Ornate cliffhanger close. On the 11th night, the pulsing in the ground stopped completely. Not calmed, stopped. The way a held breath stops before someone screams. Elira sat bolt upright, skin flashing a color none of them had seen on her before. "Something is awake," she whispered. Something enormous. Something that has been asleep since before this planet had a name. Barrow 9's sensors screamed a warning. None of his instruments had ever registered before. Dale stood slowly. Coffee mug, still impossibly, in his pack and steaming faintly in the cold. He looked toward the horizon, where the jungle canopy had begun, silently, to peel apart like a wound opening. "Huh," he said. "Kowalski," Thessaly breathed. "What is it?" Dale took a slow sip of his coffee. "Dunno yet," he said. "But I got a feeling Tuesday's about to get interesting."